Coming up on InfoSecSync, the U.S. has issued a warning for government and commerce sectors not to get too chummy with China.
Also ahead, millions of dollars get moved around after ransomware gang feels law enforcement closing in on them.
And a UK teen got quite industrious during the pandemic. More on this now busted money-making scheme. We've got those stories and more, so get ready to get in sync with InfoSecSync.
You're watching the InfoSecSync Weekly News with Nick Thomas and news anchor Layla Gulen, sponsored by Axellio. Threat detection and response done right. Axellio.
Welcome to the InfoSecSync Weekly News for week ending October 29th, 2021. I'm Layla Gulen with your host, Nick Thomas. Good to see you there, Nick.
Good to see you, Layla. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. Just hearing a lot of rumblings about ransomware, and I know we've got that in our story lineup here today, but any updates? Just curious if you've heard on Sinclair.
I have not heard any update on Sinclair's yet. As far as I know, they're still trying to find out what's going on.
Yeah, all right. Well, let's talk about China, shall we? U.S. officials are issuing new warnings that China has its eye on artificial intelligence as a way of gaining a military edge and possible dominance in essential sectors in America, such as healthcare. Well, the warnings include a renewed effort to inform business executives, academics, and local and state government officials about the risks of accepting Chinese investment or expertise. Beijing has accused Washington of fear-mongering and its assessments of China regarding the coronavirus pandemic. The Counterintelligence Center says artificial intelligence, autonomous systems, quantum computing, semiconductors, and biotechnology are the biggest threats. Officials also point out that the Chinese businesses and academics are beholden to Chinese Communist Party and are required to serve the party's interests. Now, the U.S. obviously here, Nick, they're taking a very strong stance against China, but do you agree with that position? Do you think that this puts us in a tight spot in terms of diplomacy with that country?
So we're always on edge with China for diplomacy, so I think it keeps us in that same little spot that we're in. We just have to be vigilant with Chinese interests nowadays.
Right. All right. Well, we've got a lot more to come. One of Russia's most feared ransomware gangs is moving their money around. We'll explain after the break.
Are you concerned the next news headline on a security breach includes your company name? In a recent IBM cyber report, 51% of all interviewed organizations reported a significant business disruption during the past 2 years due to a cybersecurity incident, while organizations using 50-plus security tools rank themselves lower in their ability to detect and respond to an attack, with the average security operation team using 70 tools. If more tools and data are not the answer, what can you do? Axellio works with you to optimize a threat detection and response solution to fit your environment to prevent tool and data overload. We leverage and optimize your existing infrastructure, enhanced with the Axellio platform as necessary, utilizing open source solutions where applicable. And we work closely with you to deploy, configure, document, and educate your team. Axellio, let's create the right security solution for your environment.
The operators behind DarkSide ransomware have moved nearly $7 million worth of Bitcoin to multiple new wallets, making it more difficult to track. This comes following a massive outage of the notorious Revil ransomware. Their operation due to coordinated law enforcement efforts involving the U.S. and foreign partners. Just hours after reports about Revil itself getting hacked and being forced offline by a multi-country operation, DarkSide operators quickly started transferring funds into multiple accounts. The attackers have split the BTC into 7 wallets in what looks like preparation to convert to other exchanges or cash out somehow. A DarkSide variant was used in the May attack that caused gasoline supply disruption to the Colonial Pipeline, Layla.
Yeah, we certainly remember that. Do you think that there is a way to track the money? They said that it's to make it more difficult, but do you think that there actually is a way to track the money now that it's been spread out?
I think it's getting more difficult because once it goes into different wallets and it gets spread out from there, it makes it really untraceable or harder to trace at that point.
This doesn't sound like something that's necessarily a new concept, but do you think that more people are going to see what they're doing and follow suit?
Yeah, I think that might happen. Absolutely.
Probably,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Well, the actor behind the cyber attacks targeting SolarWinds customers in 2020 has been attempting to replicate past attacks to target the global IT supply chain. Experts say Nobelium is now targeting resellers and other technology service providers that customize, deploy, and manage cloud services. They say the bad actors hope to access IT systems in order to impersonate an organization's trusted technology partner to gain access to their downstream customers. So far, more than 140 resellers and technology service providers have been targeted by Nobelium. This recent activity indicates Russia is trying to gain long-term systematic access to the technology supply chain in order to surveil targets of interest to the Russian government. Nick?
At least 150 people are behind bars and more than $31 million have been seized in an international drug trafficking investigation. Both U.S. and European law enforcement were involved in the sting after conducting a 10-month investigation of darknet drug sales in countries including the U.S., the U.K., Australia, France, and others. The darknet is a part of the internet hosted within an encrypted network and accessible only through specialized anonymity providing tools, most notably the Tor browser.
Well, more than 32,000 customers of an online gaming store are being notified of a hack that took place in February. SCUF Gaming International says the hackers used a malicious script to steal customers' credit card information using a web skimming technique, also called e-skimming or digital skimming. Threat actors inject JavaScript based to harvest and steal customers' payment and personal information. The attackers later sell it to others on hacking or carding forums or use it in various financial or identity theft fraud schemes. Customers have been warned to monitor their bank accounts. Nick?
Well, it's time for a break, and when we return, cyber stalking. More on a first for one Midwestern state. We'll be right back.
Many organizations are protecting their environment through perimeter defense using a combination of firewalls, IDSs, IPSs, and endpoint protection. Even though cost-effective, recent events have shown that perimeter defense, even though necessary, is not sufficient when it comes to threat detection and response. And once a threat actor penetrates these defenses, what tools do you have to detect their every move or to stop their preparations for ransomware attacks or data exfiltration? At Excelio, we believe that comprehensive network visibility across your network, inside and out, is essential to identify and respond to today's threat actors. Packet Express provides the network visibility and contextual data to detect, prioritize, and mitigate threats, no matter where they hide. Excelio, threat detection and response solutions with Packet Express, the network visibility hub.
There is new legislation that would form a working group charged with monitoring the security of artificial intelligence or AI data obtained by federal contractors. The bipartisan bill is said to help secure and protect information handled by federal contractors using tools such as biometric data from facial recognition scans. The Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee says AI technology, quote, could harm Americans, end quote, or compromise national security. In some instances, committee members say AI technology companies that have contracted with federal law enforcement agencies have misused data and information. The bill encourages the Office of Management and Budget Director to work with scholars and experts from the public and private sectors to create requisite training. Layla?
Yeah, could this use of AI backfire? I mean, it sounds like there are people for it and certainly people against it.
I'm not sure if it could backfire because the way AI works is you have to have a machine learning piece in there and you have to teach it how to do things the way you want it to work, and then you have to reinforce that learning. Sort of like teaching a child with candy and reinforcing so they learn, right? So misusing the data, I'm not sure what they mean by that, but I don't think it could backfire on like they think it can.
Okay, all right. Well, the U.S. Secretary of State has announced a new bureau and envoy to handle cyber policy, revamping amid alarm over rising hacking attacks. Anthony Blinken said that a review showed a need for structural changes on how the State Department should adapt to 21st century challenges. The digital push comes amid increasing concern that the United States needs to prepare for prolonged conflict and disruption on the cyber front. Nick.
England's House of Commons has become a major target of malicious email scams. More than 126 million malicious emails have been filling boxes this year. That's a 358% increase on the total figure for 2020. Parliament says this year's total could reach as high as 150 million. The only major cyber incident in the Commons that led to compromised inboxes in recent years was an Iranian state-sponsored effort in 2017, Layla.
What's the best policy when dealing with these phishing emails?
It depends. If it's at your personal residence or on your personal email, simply delete. If it is at your work has separate rules and regulations, so I would advise to follow those, but really don't click on any open links.
We've heard this over and over again.
Yeah, but it's still the low-hanging fruit that gets people.
It certainly is. All right. Well, the United Kingdom says that it wants to use a recently formed cyber command to hunt and hack ransomware gangs. The country's director of Britain's Signals Intelligence Agency says Britain had seen a significant uptick in ransomware attacks and that the government was looking to use offensive operations to deter future attacks. News that the UK's plans to hack the hackers comes only about a week after Reuters first reported that the U.S. had conducted an operation of its own along these lines. The news that the U.S. and the U.K. are engaged in such activities seems to signal a new phase of law enforcement tactics in combating cybercrime. Governments are now more actively and openly pursuing cybercriminals rather than just cleaning up their mess. Nick.
A 48-year-old Nebraska man has become the state's first to be convicted of cyberstalking. The man was charged with intent to extort and cyberstalking his ex-wife in an attempt to prevent her current husband from being elected to the Nebraska legislature. Evidence showed the man had used 2 different email accounts to send 6 emails to the legislature candidate. At least one of the emails included explicit photos of his ex-wife and her daughter. The 3-day jury trial ended with the man being convicted and sentenced to 12 months and 1 day in prison, to be followed by 3 years of supervised release. The offender is also ordered to pay a $10,000 fine. Layla.
Well, a 23-year-old Kansas man has admitted in court to tampering with a local water system. The man worked for the Ellsworth County Drinking Water Treatment Facility between January 2018 and January 2019. He was indicted 7 months ago after it was discovered he accessed a remote login system to shut down the facility and turn one of the filters off. The man says he was intoxicated and doesn't remember doing so. He pleaded guilty to damaging a computer during unauthorized access and to tampering with the public water system. He could face up to 12 months in prison. Nick.
Mozilla has blocked malicious Firefox add-ons after roughly 455,000 users already installed them. The discovery was made in early June and found the add-ons named Bypass and Bypass XM were using the API to intercept and redirect web requests to block users from downloading updates, abusing the proxy API to block Firefox updates. Mozilla has further added a system add-on dubbed Proxy Failover, which is hidden from the About Add-ons UI, impossible to disable, and updatable without having to restart the device. Firefox users can see if they have the Proxy Failover add-on installed by going to the Firefox Features section on the About Support page. Layla?
Yeah, well, here we go again. A massive fraud campaign signed up millions to premium subscription services without their knowledge. Researchers at Avast discovered the campaign and reported 151 apps disguised on the Google Play Store as discount apps, games, QR code scanners, video and photo editors, and a whole lot more. Well, the scheme worked by promoting the user to enter contact information, which the app then asks subscribers to a monthly SMS service from which the scammers get a cut as an affiliate partner. Although the apps have been removed, the scammers have already made millions of dollars. To avoid falling victim to one of these schemes, ask your carrier to disable the premium SMS option for your account and avoid entering your phone number on apps that wouldn't need the information. Again, Nick, so Android, it strikes again. Does this happen as often on Apple products as it does on Android devices?
Not as much. Android is open source, so there's a lot of things that people can make and put into the store, whereas Apple really looks at their information that's going into the store and goes over with developers, and it has to use their secure API to make things work.
I see.
With that, the FBI just released a flash report on indicators of compromise for the Ramsey Locker ransomware. The ransomware has been targeting businesses in the United States since late 2020. By July 2021, compromised more than 30 victims in the information technology, transportation sector, academia, and others. A typical attack starts with brute forcing remote desktop protocol connections to gain initial access to the network. During the attack, the Ramsey Locker operators would also attempt to identify important files for exfiltration, including customer data, personally identifiable information, and financial records. Victims are instructed to pay a ransom in exchange for a decryption tool, but the operators may also attempt to extort a second ransom, threatening to make the stolen data public. Layla?
Wow. When we come back, a tech unicorn, the major flood of funding for this cybersecurity company. Don't go anywhere.
Are you concerned the next news headline on a security breach includes your company name? In a recent IBM cyber report, 51% of all interviewed organizations reported a significant business disruption during the past 2 years due to a cybersecurity incident, while organizations using 50-plus security tools rank themselves lower in their ability to detect and respond to an attack, with the average security operation team using 70 tools. If more tools and data are not the answer, what can you do? Excelio works with you to optimize a threat detection and response solution to fit your environment to prevent tool and data overload. We leverage and optimize your existing infrastructure, enhanced with the Excelio platform as necessary, utilizing open source solutions where applicable. And we work closely with you to deploy, configure, document, and educate your team. Excelio, let's create the right security solution for your environment.
Welcome back. A security researcher has earned a $2 million bug bounty reward for a critical vulnerability in Polygon's Plasma Bridge. The Polygon is designed to provide a blockchain bridge, creating a two-way transaction channel that enables users to move assets from the root chain, Ethereum, to the child chain, Polygon. Well, Gerard Wagner is credited with figuring out the vulnerability could have allowed a malicious user to submit the same withdrawal transaction 224 times with different exit IDs. So basically, one could deposit $1 million and withdraw $224 million. The vulnerability was reported in early October.
Dragos has raised an eye-popping $200 million in a Series D funding round. With a valuation of nearly $2 billion, the company has become the first to raise that kind of cash. The latest funding was led by Koch Disruptive Technologies. Several other investors also took part in this round. Dragos offers a platform that provides asset visibility and inventory, vulnerability management, and threat detection for ICS/OT systems. Dragos currently has 360 employees in operations around the world, but it wants to continue growing, which includes expansion to new regions. Layla?
Wow. Well, Microsoft will partner with community colleges to recruit and train 250,000 people for cybersecurity jobs over the next 4 years. The effort is to address the continued workforce shortage in the industry. The tech giant will supply tens of millions of dollars along with help in developing curricula and training faculty. The curricula will be available for free to community colleges nationwide, provide training for new and existing faculty at 150 community colleges, and supply scholarships and other resources to thousands of students, including funding for certification tests and childcare. Amazing. Nick.
An intrepid 17-year-old in the UK collected a lot before getting busted for abusing Google ads to lure users to his fake gift card site. The teen set up a fake gift card site called Love to Shop from his bedroom during the pandemic and harvested people's payment information. He then invested the stolen money in cryptocurrency and became a millionaire. The jig was up when the real Love to Shop site caught on when customers started to complain. Law enforcement said they found 12,000 credit card numbers and 197 PayPal accounts on his computer. They added that he had collected more than $440,000 in stolen money.
God, that is one smart 17-year-old.
Yeah, he was pretty clever, isn't he?
Very clever.
Needs to work for the government.
Seriously, I was going to say, sign up for Microsoft's community college courses, but I think he needs to just go straight on to a job.
You're right with that, Layla.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, some really interesting stories this week, and that's going to do it for us. We'll be off next week for Veterans Day and would like to take a moment to thank all the men and women in their armed forces for their service. On behalf of Nick and myself, thank you so much for watching. You are now in sync with InfoSecSync. We'll see you next time.
Many organizations are protecting their environment through perimeter defense using a combination of firewalls, IDSs, IPSs, and endpoint protection. Even though cost-effective, recent events have shown that perimeter defense, even though necessary, is not sufficient when it comes to threat detection and response. And once a threat actor penetrates these defenses, what tools do you have to detect their every move or to stop their preparations for ransomware attacks or data exfiltration? At Excelio, we believe that comprehensive network visibility across your network, inside and out, is essential to identify and respond to today's threat actors. Packet Express provides the network visibility and contextual data to detect, prioritize, and mitigate threats, no matter where they hide. Excelio, threat detection and response solutions with Packet Express, the network visibility hub.